I'm Charles Haury. I live in Ocean City, New Jersey. I served on the Alabama from 1944 until the end of the war, and I took her into Bremerton for mothballing. Being in a turret was especially satisfying because it was such a well-drilled crew. Everything that occurs in a turret is choreographed. Everybody in a turret has a job to do and knows how to do it in expert fashion. My battle station and my duty station was Turret 1. This, of course, is Turret 2, but I'm also familiar with Turret 2. Okay, we're now on the upper projectile deck of Turret 2 on the USS Alabama. This outer storage ring is fixed to the ship. The inner storage ring is fixed to the rotating portion of the turret. This rotating section, it rotates independent of either, so that it can go to the location of a projectile. The crew can attach the line to the projectile, and through the use of the capstan and the idler, slide the projectile into the projectile hoist. Now that was easy because this deck was kept greased. Difficult to walk on, but easy to slide projectiles. The projectile hoist has a pawl that drops down under the projectile and raises it through a tube up to the gun compartment, where it is placed on a rammer tray and rammed into the breech of the gun ahead of the powder. Basically, this area of the turret is fixed to the hull of the ship. This section rotates with the guns. To get powder to the guns, we bring it from the magazines, which are external to the turret, through a bronze scuttle in this fashion. Powder for the 16-inch guns is packed in silk bags. It's transferred from the scuttle to the powder hoist. When the necessary bags for the charge, and 6 bags is a full charge, when that necessary charge is loaded, the door opens, these bags roll into the powder hoist and are transferred to the gun chamber. The first 3 bags of powder are rolled down onto the tray from the powder hoist. The rammer then rams those 3 bags home, retracts, the hoist comes up to the next level, drops 3 more bags into the tray, those are rammed home. Then the rammer retracts, the tray collapses, the door is closed, and the breech is swung shut. A primer is inserted, and the gun is ready to fire. Each of these turrets weighs 1,500 tons, approximately the same weight as a World War I destroyer. In order to bring its guns to bear on a target, the turret can be moved from a position of extreme starboard to extreme port in a time of 45 seconds. Once on target, we can achieve a fire rate of 1 salvo every 30 seconds. This is throwing a 2,700-pound projectile 22 miles. At a range of 6 miles, our armor-piercing ammunition can penetrate an armor depth of 22 inches. The guns are extremely accurate and extremely effective. We used them to great effect against targets in the Pacific during the war. Alabama was such an efficient ship that during these bombardments, she was designated counter-battery ship. In other words, if enemy positions were to bring us under fire, it was Alabama's responsibility to eliminate them. That's a tribute to the expertise of the crew of the Alabama. As you can see, these projectiles at such a high weight of 2,700 pounds could be very difficult to recover if they should fall over. Consequently, the crews held regular drills where they would purposely dump a projectile and then bring it upright. The gunner's mates took great pleasure in conducting these impromptu drills in my presence because they knew how nervous it made me. They would dump one and I would scurry for safety on the electric deck, which is just above. 16-inch guns have a range of 21 miles. They're extremely accurate and very effective. We could fire 2 rounds a minute under ideal conditions, and often did. These projectiles represent armor-piercing projectiles. Armor-piercing projectile has a windscreen which covers the blunt nose of the actual projectile for aerodynamic effect. When it makes impact with the target, the windscreen, of course, collapses and the flat section of the nose of the projectile smashes through the armor and the charge explodes after the penetration is achieved. In my family, the Navy tradition goes back to the Civil War. I had 5 uncles in the Navy during the Civil War. My dad was in the Navy before World War I, and as a consequence, for my whole boyhood, I wanted to be a sailor. And of course, when I finally got on the Alabama, I was just the happiest kid in the world. I joined the Navy at 17. I was about 18 and a half when I came aboard Alabama, and just enjoyed every minute of my service.
How to get the name Lucky A?
That's a misnomer. It was the Mighty A. Somebody in some PR department called it Lucky A. We weren't lucky, we were good. because of the fact that this projectile weighs 2,700 pounds, and because of the fact that it could accidentally be tipped over, the gunner's mates held regular drills in righting upended projectiles. In addition to these regular drills, the gunner's mates in Turret 1, where I was stationed, knowing my skittishness about projectiles, would, when they saw me coming, sometimes dump one over and just enjoy my flight to the electric deck, which is just above.
Okay, sure. Okay. Is that okay? Are you comfortable with that? Or you?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
To move the guns into position to take a target under fire, it's necessary to train the turret from side to side and to elevate the guns. This is all done hydraulically with hydraulic motors driven by electric motors and controlled by personnel known as pointers and trainers. What else do you want for that?
What was it called? What was this called and this called?
Okay. Movement of the turret in a horizontal plane is called train. Movement of the individual gun barrels in a vertical plane is elevation.
Could you turn a little bit? Say that again.
Like
because
this?
of the wind.
Okay.
Go ahead and say that.
Movement of the turret in a horizontal plane is called train. Movement of the individual gun barrels in a vertical plane is called elevation. These movements are controlled by personnel known as pointers and trainers.
And where are they?
They're located in the turret officer's booth.
And tell me, this is really in the movie. There's this shot. Tell us about how the starburst, the 5-inch starburst, was used in coordination with the 16-inch. Could you tell us about that?
Whenever I can imagine that it was used to illuminate targets so that we could see the effect of our firing.
Okay. Could you just kind of tell us that, like, what's the purpose of the starburst? What is it called? Starburst or star shell?
Star shell.
Okay. Could you tell us the purpose of the star shell and what it was supposed to do?
Yeah, but not from first-hand knowledge,
what you just said was fine. That was fine.
Okay, the star shells are used to illuminate the target area so that we can observe the effect of our fire and correct as necessary.
It also helps the target to, like, make a silhouette or something behind a ship, possibly, or.
Yeah, I suppose, but when I think of anything being silhouetted, it has to be on the horizon, and that's rather short range for us.
Okay, that's it.
You'll see the open breech and the breech block, otherwise called the mushroom for obvious reasons. When the loading procedure is complete, the gun captain, who stands on a platform just to the left of that breech, swings the breech block. It's a manual operation. It's delicately counterbalanced, and with just a short turn, engages all of those threads that you see within the breech and secures the breech block. After insertion of a primer, the gun is now ready to fire.
That sounds great. Hold on for just a second.
Okay. Gee, I should have noted that there was an electrical primer that can also be ignited by percussion. The projectile comes up first,
Okay.
and then the powder.
And then the powder does.
Yeah, the projectile has to be rammed into the breech
Okay, so it's happening
prior
at the
to
same
the
time. Is
powder.
that right? Just
Oh yeah, the powder would be over there almost at the same time as the projectile arrives here.
okay.
The sequence after that is that the projectile goes down, and then the powder.
And that's what you're going to describe. Okay, great.
Yeah.
That's super. Okay, tell us. We've gone to the projectile room where it comes up. Show us what happens from down there. What happens now? What's happening here as it connects down to there? What's it doing now?
Okay. The projectile hoist delivers the projectile to this section of the loading tray. The loading tray extends, and that portion that holds the projectile lays down. The rammer at that point drives the projectile up into the breech of the gun. The rammer then retracts, and the first 3 bags of powder are rolled down onto the tray from the powder hoist. The rammer then rams those 3 bags home, retracts, the hoist comes up to the next level, drops 3 more bags into the tray, those are rammed home. Then the rammer retracts, the tray collapses, the door is closed, and the breech is swung shut, a primer is inserted, and the gun is ready to fire.